I'm a huge fan of Beasts of the Southern Wild. I'm a big fan of it because of the story it tells and how it's told, and I believe the sonics of this movie are extraordinary. When we are experiencing the world differently, we maybe don't hear certain things, or we hear certain things more than other things. So in that first clip, we have the heartbeats.
To me, it's really struck me as a way to feel that this character, Hush Puppy, has empathy and is connected with her world in a way more than most people.
The fact that we as an audience hear, what she's feeling immediately establishes that the sound has a window into her imagination and into her emotions and the nature of what that heartbeat was. I remember we toyed around for a long time because we couldn't decide whether we wanted it to be what a heart literally sounds like, which has a lot of kind of squirting and squelching, and it's like the sound of an organ pumping, or whether we wanted it to be what's in there, which is a slightly more cinematic. What's in there is sort of what you might hear in a horror movie when they're trying to make you feel scared, is you have this sort of fake cinema heartbeat.
We have this little wooden table, and we'd call it the table. And you would just take a drumstick.
We have very creative
artists.
names.
Yeah. And so what we would do is we would just hit this table with a stick and just put as much distortion as humanly possible on it, and then process that, and then put even more on after that. So just this kind of sound.
And when you're out doing field recording too, you have to keep your mind open too. You might say to yourself, okay, today I'm going to go out and record an oil field. And you don't get an oil field, but you get 10 other sounds along the way that might work in your next film.
The amount that you can do in the dialogue editing, which we haven't talked that much about, is astronomical, and it affects performance.
And in a very subtle way, you can influence focus and where you're trying to direct people or push people forward in their seat to pay more attention or less attention to given characters on the screen.
Ben was sitting on the couch in my studio with headphones on, with the editor next to him on the couch, with Alfonso, our editor. The two of them sitting there with Ben listening to the edit with one headphone and with his other ear listening to the music while I was recording it, and
two completely different parts of the movie.
Two completely different parts of the movie, and he was engaged with the editing. He would just sit there and then editing, and then every once in a while he'd just pop out and be like, "Oh, now that string has to be a little bit less shrill, or a little bit, so on and so on, a little bit less hard to play." Like, okay, cool, and then go back to editing.
When you say that you're going to make a indie movie on this budget and it's going to center around a sort of apocalyptic hurricane, it's completely implausible, and what, allowed that to work was really the fact that the film was through her subjectivity. When you look at 99% of the footage taken during hurricanes, it's in dark houses, and you're seeing tiny amounts of rain through whatever tiny amount of light exists. And that's sort of where the concept came from, that, that it's much scarier to be inside and not be able to see and not know what's going on, and that, if we're in this little girl's point of view, the sound is what she hears. It's not really about like plugging in the kind of music that you've heard before. It's about understanding the story well enough to invent something new that's in sync with what you're trying to say.
Well, I think that's a wonderful note to end this on. I guess I wanted to thank everyone on this panel and Ben for joining us.